The story always begins in a room you did not choose. A room where the walls murmured tension, where the air parecia aprendor. Your fears before you even knew their names. You entered life like a candle lit in a storm, flickering but determined, aware without knowing why. And the question surfaced early, long before you had language for it. Why does an awakened soul arrive in a place where love is tangled with wounds, where affection tastes like confusion, where silence carries the weight of unspoken battles? Sartre once suggested that we are thrown into existence without instructions, forced to face the raw truth of freedom long before we feel ready. And maybe that is why your first breath took place in a storm instead of a sanctuary, because an awakened soul does not bloom under perfect skies. It awakens in the tension, in the contradiction, in the places where nothing makes sense. It awakens not in comfort, but in the fracture. And from that fracture, something ancient inside you began to open its eyes. You grew up sensing things no one around you dared to name. The tone of a voice, the shift in a room, the way love could suddenly freeze and turn sharp. While others adapted, you observed. While others repeated the script, you questioned the lines. Sartre believed that consciousness is born the moment we confront what feels absurd. And your childhood was full of moments that made no sense, yet shaped everything. In a family where chaos felt normal, you became the silent witness, the one who noticed the cracks beneath the floorboards of everyday life. And even then, without vocabulary or guidance, something within you pushed back against the narrative you were handed. You felt the heaviness of the expectations placed upon you, the invisible roles assigned before you could even walk. And still, you sensed a truth they could not overwrite. That quiet inner refusal, that spark that whispered you are not what they say you are, became the earliest sign of your awakening. There is a moment, often small and easily overlooked, when a child realizes that something is fundamentally off, not wrong in a loud or dramatic way, but misaligned. Like a door that never quite closes, or a light that flickers without reason. You felt that misalignment early. The words spoken in your home rarely matched the energy beneath them. Smiles floated on the surface while resentment simmered underneath. Affection came wrapped in conditions. And when you tried to understand, you were told you were too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. Yet deep inside, you knew your sensitivity was not a flaw, but a compass pointing toward truth. Sartre wrote that we are condemned to interpret the world around us, and you became an interpreter long before childhood should demand it. While others accepted the script of dysfunction as normal, you sensed the hollowness behind it. You recognized the gap between what was said and what was felt, and that quiet awareness, that ability to perceive the invisible currents, set you apart. It was not rebellion, it was vision. It was the first sign that your soul refused to sleep through its own life. As you grew, the contradictions around you sharpened. Love felt like a puzzle with missing pieces, and every attempt to fit yourself into the family pattern left you bruised in ways no one else seemed to notice. You watched how others moved through the same environment untouched, as if they were immune to the subtle poison in the air. But you were not immune. You absorbed everything. The tension behind closed doors, the disappointment that never found words, the expectations that pressed into your skin like invisible hands. And instead of becoming numb, you became aware. Sartre believed that awakening begins when we can no longer lie to ourselves about the world we inhabit. That was your silent turning point. You stopped pretending that the chaos was normal. You stopped accepting the roles assigned to you. You sensed that there was something deeply unspoken in your home, something you were expected to carry without ever acknowledging its weight. And even though you could not name it, you felt it shaping you, pushing you inward, forcing you to understand life from a depth that others around you never had to reach. That depth, born in discomfort, became the seed of your consciousness. There comes a time when the child inside you understands that survival is not just about enduring the storms outside, but navigating the ones that live within the people you love. You learn to read emotional weather the way sailors read the sky, knowing when to stay quiet, when to shrink, when to disappear into the background just to keep the peace. But disappearing never suited you. Something in you resisted the erasure. Sartre wrote that freedom is not a gift, but a burden, and you carried that burden early. The burden of seeing too much, feeling too much, understanding too much for your age. While others clung to the illusion that everything was fine, You could feel the fractures beneath the surface, the ones no one dared acknowledge. And that inner awareness, uncomfortable as it was, became your first taste of freedom. Not too loud, triumphant, kind, but the quiet freedom of refusing to internalize what did not belong to you. Even as a child, you sensed that the chaos around you was not your essence. You understood, without words, that you had the right to choose who you would become, despite the storm you were born into. That quiet defiance was the early pulse of your awakening, steady and impossible to silence. As the years unfolded, you began to notice something strange. The more you tried to fit into the family's rhythm, the more your spirit resisted. It was as if your soul tightened each time you tried to shrink yourself to match their expectations. You felt the unspoken rules, the emotional choreography everyone else seemed to follow without thought. Pretend, endure, agree, forget, and yet you couldn't. Your mind questioned what others accepted. Your heart rejected what others normalized. Sartre believed that identity is not something given to us, but something we must carve out ourselves, even if the carving hurts. And you were already carving, even when you didn't know it. Every silent disagreement, every internal no, every moment in which you felt out of place was a declaration that you would not inherit the patterns handed to you. You were not trying to be different. You were simply trying to stay true to the faint but undeniable truth inside you. The truth that whispered, "This is not who you are. This is not what love is supposed to feel like." And with every whisper, your awakening deepened, quietly, but irreversibly. With time, the distance between who you were expected to be and who you truly were became impossible to ignore. You felt it like a quiet tear inside your chest, widening each time you played the role others assigned you. The obedient one, the responsible one, the invisible one, the strong one. But none of those roles were you. They were masks, crafted by a family that needed you to carry what they could not face. Sartre argued that bad faith begins when we pretend to be something we are not, and you felt the suffocation of that pretense long before you had words for it. You realized, slowly and painfully, that the emotional architecture of your home was built on denial, and you, unlike the others, could not live inside a lie without feeling it tear at your soul. So you began to step back, not out of rebellion, but out of necessity. You started to observe instead of absorb, to feel without drowning, to question without apologizing. And in those quiet acts of inner honesty, you discovered a truth that changed everything. Awakening does not begin with enlightenment. It begins with refusing to abandon yourself. Eventually, you began to see your family not as the entire world, but as one small, wounded corner of it. Their patterns, once overwhelming, revealed themselves as echoes of older pain, inherited fears, and unfinished stories long predating your arrival. This realization did not excuse their behavior, but it gave you perspective. You understood that the toxicity around you was not born from your existence, but from their inability to face their own shadows. And in that understanding, a quiet separation began. Sartre believed that we become free the moment we recognize that the narratives imposed on us are not absolute. You reached that moment in silence. You noticed that what they called love often resembled control. What they called discipline often tasted like fear. What they called family often felt like a cage built out of expectations. And yet, even with all that heaviness, you felt a strange clarity rising inside you. You realized that the darkness you were born into did not own you. It merely revealed who you could become if you dared to step beyond it. And you did. And step by step, thought by thought, breath by breath, your soul began to walk toward its own truth. And yet, in the quiet moments, when the noise of judgment fades, an awakened soul begins to recognize the invisible chains of their family. They see the subtle threads of expectation, the quiet undercurrents of fear and shame that have guided their every step. It is not blame that fills their heart, but a profound awareness of the patterns that shape them. They understand that toxicity is not merely the loud, obvious cruelty, it is the whisper, the absence, the unspoken rules that bend the spirit. These realizations do not come as thunder, but as a soft illumination, a gentle unveiling of truth that had always been there, waiting for recognition. They feel both the weight of the past and the possibility of freedom, as if standing on the edge of a darkened forest, finally seeing the path that winds toward the light. And in that recognition, a strange and liberating courage emerges. They begin to see their family not only as the architects of their wounds, but also as mirrors of what they must transcend. Every harsh word, every silent neglect, becomes a signpost, guiding them toward self-understanding, toward the reclamation of their own soul. It is here, in this delicate tension between pain and insight, that the awakened heart learns the art of presence, of being fully conscious while surrounded by shadows. They discover that the toxicity around them does not define them. It only reflects the parts of themselves they are meant to illuminate. In the quiet of this awareness, they step gently into their own authority, learning to hold both empathy and distance, compassion and discernment, as twin lanterns lighting the path forward. And then comes the revelation, subtle yet seismic, as if the soul itself inhales the weight of truth. They realize that being born into a toxic family was never a curse, but a rigorous teacher, shaping a resilience they could not have learned elsewhere. Every wound, every moment of feeling unseen, every clash of expectation has carved channels through which their consciousness can flow freely. In this clarity, the awakened soul understands that liberation is not escape, it is present. It is the ability to witness pain without being consumed, to love without losing oneself, to speak without fear, and to choose without apology. And for the first time, they sense the paradox at the heart of their existence, that suffering, when fully acknowledged, becomes the soil in which the deepest growth takes root. The weight that once pressed upon them now steadies them, offering a strange, undeniable grace. And finally, the awakened soul rests in a quiet knowing. They understand that the family into which they were born, with all its shadows and limitations, was only the beginning of a journey inward, toward the depth and clarity of their own being. They carry both tenderness and strength, the memory of pain and the awareness of freedom, intertwined like roots and branches of the same tree. And in this space, they discover a profound truth. The past does not imprison them, it instructs them. The wounds of yesterday are the whispers of wisdom today, guiding each step with subtle insistence. Life becomes less about seeking validation from those who could not give it and more about honoring the awakening within. And as they breathe, fully present, they realize that every soul, born into challenge or comfort alike, has the capacity to risk, to see clearly, to act consciously, and to live fully. The path of the awakened is never easy, yet it is undeniably luminous, and in that light, they find themselves at last whole, aware, and unafraid.